everyone talking about how I found out firsthand that your nose is broken type of comments about, claiming that something's so wrong about someone's description of how it smells or whatever isn't based in reality. That might sound kind of obvious, but on the other hand, I could picture people not believing it because of how frequent that is in reviews, like Fragrantica reviews. I don't think people would be saying that to anyone's face so much, but yeah, in the comments. So after I started getting into fragrance stuff and like talking to other people, one of the people that I started talking to, we would like mail decants back and forth, and we would have such different experience, and we were both had smelled a lot of stuff. So it wasn't like, oh, one of us was a newbie and didn't have experience with this thing. And it also wasn't like, oh, I like this, but they don't. It wasn't like, oh, well, this smells like orange to me and I just like orange. And, oh, this smells gross to me. Literally, it would smell like one of us would get major fruit notes from something and the other one would be like, I literally smell no fruit in this. Neither of us have had COVID or any known reason, that would have had like an issue at that time or whatever. And this happened so often, and it wasn't even like, oh, it could be a different batch, because it was the same decants that we were sending back and forth, and it was just like over and over and over. And I've noticed that time and time again with anybody that I send stuff to. And it's not just that my nose is broken consistently and like everybody else is consistent, because sometimes I'll be the one whose opinion of it lines up completely with like the majority of people and the other person doesn't, or vice versa. But so yeah, I don't blame people for thinking, that type of thing about like, oh, that person's just so wrong. They're just smelling it wrong because it doesn't smell like that at all. Because I'm sure I thought that at first too, maybe a little bit less aggressively, but like, yeah, that, when sometimes you'll see something in a YouTube review, for a Fragrantica review, wherever, and someone's describing the scent that you've tried and you're just like, what? And I'm sure people have, gotten that from some of my videos too. Like, that does not smell like that to me at all. What are they talking about? But that doesn't mean that either person is wrong. It can kind of be, and it's all relative in a sense. Like for some people who are used to growing up eating a lot of spicy food, for example, something's not going to seem that spicy compared to someone who hadn't. And that doesn't mean either person is like automatically right or whatever. It's just kind of like, yeah, all relative. But so I just want, and that's another reason why I always try to make a big deal to emphasize in my own reviews and videos, like, this is how it smells to my nose. It might be different to yours. I'm not trying to say my way of smelling it is the gospel. So just because someone else gets a certain thing out of a scent doesn't automatically mean you should write it off, I would say. Obviously, I think ideally if people could just kind of review what they're getting out of it and less about kind of saying really like black and white things about it, and more just like giving, the general vibe, and then sort of like saying how they feel about it, but not just like, this scent is not this, how could anybody think that type of thing. Yeah, I think that people could absolutely, I guarantee anybody who's ever said your nose is broken in the comment, why is that such a common thing, would be able to reproduce this exact situation if you picked out, a bunch of other people in the fragrance community and sent the same decants back and forth. And this could be like a big variety of stuff. This has, again, happened to me with so many other people that I've met through fragrance since. It's not just like, oh, well, fruity ones are like that, or, oh, sandalwood ones are like that, or something like that. It's like anything you can picture, there are people who are going to get something different out of it. It's usually not so radically different that it's like, what are you talking about? Like this, you said that this was, really dark and intensely masculine leather, and to me it smells like Baccarat Rouge. Like, it's not usually quite like that, but there are just things where accords can come out differently to different people's noses. And I just want to encourage that people don't automatically think just because someone else's description of a fragrance doesn't match their own, that person's wrong. And also that you shouldn't feel bad if you feel a certain way and somebody says like, oh, you're, whatever, like it doesn't smell like that at all. Like, neither person is necessarily right. And just important is how it feels to you. But yeah, I think I like to watch and read reviews by people who talk about it kind of like I try to, where they're not saying prescriptively like, you, this, that type of thing, and just more like, okay, this is kind of roughly the vibe that it gives off, and that kind of description, rather than being so black and white. But yeah, if you've had any experiences like this, I'm curious, but I've seen this so many times now that I'm very confident that it's not just one person's nose being broken metaphorically or literally.